Hey everybody, welcome back to Lyrical Resonance, where we believe that where words fail, music speaks. I'm excited to wow, I speak sometimes. I'm excited to be getting into a band that is new to this channel. This is the band Strength Betrayed and their song War Torn. Now, I have listened to this song before. This band is like criminally underrated. Like, it's annoying how underrated this band is because they're just phenomenal musicians. I discovered them through iChristian Rock and Christian Rock X's Contagion Fest. Their recommendations of this band were very, very high, so I'm introducing you to them. This is their song, War Torn. Like I said, really excited. I'm going to stop talking. Let's get into this. If this is your first time watching, I really appreciate you taking the time. Consider, if you like what you see, liking the video, maybe dropping a comment to say hi, and then if you haven't already, consider subscribing as well, because where words fail, music does speak, and we're going to continue listening to what it has to say here. So let's do that now through Strength Betrayed and their song War Torn. Okay, can you hear why I got into this? Like, the guitars are just insane, so good, and this guy's voice is second to none in the industry. There's not another dude that really sings like this guy that I can think of in the Christian rock scene. I'm gonna try to catch some of the lyrics and kind of break those down as they stand out, or maybe I'll just kind of analyze those at the end. But either way, such a fun song. I'm gonna back up a little bit because I want to hear the build into that chorus again, because this is just so stinking good. Let's do this.
I don't know why we fight for nothing. Face of iron, it could mean everything. Watch the whole world outbound, walk away as we try to settle the score. I don't know, does this mean anything? Count the cost before it's too late. When we see the ashes smoldering, people left to die, and we were all war torn.
Woo! Before this gets away from me, I'm going to stop here because I want to comment on some of the lyrics that I thought were interesting. There was how he talked about how in the chorus you talk about we need to count the cost before we do anything, and that is so undone anymore. Like, we don't do that. We we don't take the time to figure out what it's going to mean. We just do. And that's stupid. If I can be blunt about it, it's dumb that we would just jump in and do something without considering what's the cause of this going to be? Like, what's the effect of it? What's going to play out? If I make this decision, what's going to be the result of that? Who's going to be impacted by it, you know? And it's, it's just really, really a clever way of pointing that out. And I thought that was really, really interesting. And he mentioned how so many times we can see what the issues are, but it's easier to just turn and look the other way and not pay any attention to it, because then it doesn't cost me anything. And that's, I think, where this is coming in. You know, we're having to count the cost of speaking out against injustice, speaking out against the things that we see that we know are wrong. And so often we don't do that, but then we get torn because we just want to keep the peace. Like, we don't want to be in conflict. Like, people just generally don't enjoy conflict, I think. And so, you know we want to keep the peace. We want to, we just want to let people live their lives, right? But then we also know from a Christian perspective that if I believed that if they didn't know Christ, that led to the destruction of their souls, what kind of jerk would I be to not try to keep that from happening? How much would I have to hate that person to not try and share with them this love that I believe I found, that I believe is available for them as well? And so we're war torn because we want to let people live their lives. We don't want to cause a stir or be jerks or anything. And certainly we can't be jerks about it. Like, we can't be idiots and be rude. But at the same time, there are times where we have to speak up. And we got to count the cost. What's this going to cost me in terms of, if I do this, am I going to lose friends? Am I going to lose family? Am I going to lose my job? Like, we have to think about those kinds of things, and we have to answer for ourselves. Are we going to be willing to do that? Are we going to be willing to be the kind of people who, when God tells us to speak, we speak? Man, this is a really good song that I think, when you take the time to consider some of these lyrics, really, really jumps out. All right, I'm going to back this up just a hair because I don't want to miss where this is building to.
See the ashes smoldering, people left to die, and we were all war-torn. Can you prove your life inside?
Ooh, nice. Oh, that guitar solo is nuts.
Face of iron, it could mean everything. Watch the whole world up and walk away as we try to settle the score. How in the world does this mean anything? Count the cost before it's too late. When we see the ashes smoldering, people left to die, and we were all war-torn.
Oh. Good grief, dude. What a ridiculously heavy and aggressive song. Like, I love that. Sound is so good. Real heavy. Man, just a ton of fun. And I think really challenging, if we're honest about it. Like, it's a challenging song, and dude, it hits and it connects well. It's a wonderful song that really, when you think about how aggressive it was and how the lyrics were matched in the instrumentation, I guess, for lack of better phrasing. Like, just hearing the way the instruments really were urgent, and I mean, it was big, and it was one of those things where you're like, wow, this is really getting to be kind of a lot, and it fits with what they're talking about, how we've got to figure out, we've got to figure this out. Like, we have to provide an answer. Are we gonna sit back and just continue to be war torn, or are we actually gonna count that cost and be okay with what it is? Well, they're saying, like, count the cost before it's too late. Like, think about this. All these people that are left in the ashes while we're all war torn, like, we're all just like, oh man, I would, but I just don't want to rock the boat, and I don't want to make a scene, and I just want to be the loving side of Jesus, right? Like, we don't want to be the kind of side of Jesus where he called people out for their crap and told them, you've got to get this together. Like, you've got to stop. And like, we don't want to hear that. We just want to hear that Jesus loves us, right? But yeah, he does love us, and he accepts us where we are, but he loves us too much to just leave us where we are. And so he pulls us along and challenges us. And part of our role as Christians is to be that light in the darkness of this world. And part of that includes counting the cost. Are we going to be willing to lose whatever we have to lose to stand for Jesus and stand for what he says? And I think not enough people, if they are honest with themselves, will answer that with a yes. And that's sad. More people should be willing, if you believe it, if you really believe that Jesus died for you, then you should be willing, absolutely, to speak when he says to speak, to rock the boat if the situation calls for it, and be willing to call sin for what it is. It's sin. And I'm not going to say there are different degrees of it. Sin is sin. It wouldn't matter if you were, we could get into the different arguments people have where they seem like, where they'll focus in on one as if that one's worse than some other sin. But dude, sin is sin. And it doesn't matter if it's lying, cheating, stealing, sleeping with somebody you're not married to, regardless of if you want to get into straight or not. If you're sleeping with somebody you're not married to, it's a sin. It doesn't matter. Like, the sexual sin is sexual sin. Anyway, that's beside the point. My point is, we have to be willing to speak up and call sin for what it is. It's something that separates us from the love of God. And that's our role. Be loving, yes. Try to deal gently with people, but also be willing to take a stand, count that cost, and decide for yourself, is that a cost I'm willing to pay? Maybe some people aren't willing to pay that. I can't answer that for everybody. I can only answer for myself. Anyway, getting on my theological bent now, and I'm going to back off. Anyway, this song was really good. Like I said, everything about it's fantastic. If I were to rate this on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being amazing, 1 being terrible, 10 being amazing, I'm going to give it a 10 because it's just that good. The guitars are, nobody writes guitar riffs like that. Like, those are so good. The vocals, dynamite, top of the line type stuff, top tier, and the drums were good. I mean, everything about those was just fantastic. So 10 out of 10. Let me know what you thought on a scale of 1 to 10. What are your thoughts on it? Leave me a comment. Tell me hi, whatever. Just leave me a comment if you're watching. I appreciate it. Excuse me. And yeah, that's going to do it for me here in this video. If this is your first time watching, even if this is not your first time, you're just watching, again, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate you taking the time to do it. If you liked what you saw, I'd ask you to hit the like button and consider subscribing if you haven't already, because where words fail, music does speak, and we're going to continue listening to what it has to say here at Lyrical Resonance. Before we go, consider checking out one of these songs here, because you might find a band you haven't heard yet, or maybe you just want to hear my thoughts on one of those two songs. Either way, check one of them out, and I'll see you over there. But until then, stay safe and be blessed. We'll see you soon.